It's Song Talk Radio.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio. This is the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all become better at writing songs. I'm your host, Neil Modi, and with me, my co-host, Phil Emery. How are you, Phil?
Hello, I'm here. Hello.
You're here. You're good.
Very excited. Hello.
Yeah, with a high ceiling. Okay. And for our listeners, please send your comments and questions to @SongTalkRadio on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Feedback @songtalk.ca for the email, and we'll share your thoughts on the show. And please visit us at songtalk.ca to find out how you can be a guest. Tonight, it's just in the family once again. But before we get to the meat of the show tonight, another excellent video that I saw on YouTube. I follow a YouTuber named David Bennett. He's UK-based. He is a composer more than a songwriter, I think, and talks a lot about music theory and stuff like that. And he did a really cool video. It's a little bit on the long side, but it's really, really deep. The pun is intended because get the idea in a second. He's talking about the music theory iceberg. And you know anything about the way people see icebergs. There's the visible part above the water, and then there's a whole lot of stuff underneath that we don't know about and we don't really see. And so he starts off at the top of the iceberg is like the major scale and 12 tone equal temperament and stuff like that. And by the time he gets to the bottom, he's talking about these theory concepts that you have never heard of. And some really interesting. The one thing that was, I mean, and it's an interesting test for anybody to watch his video, and he explains things really, really clearly and with examples and stuff, and it's really, really instructive and useful. But it's interesting to see how many levels deep it goes before you completely lose track of what he's talking about, right? Because I'm like down at the second from the bottom. I'm like, yeah, I knew about that. I knew about that too. And there was one item on the very, very bottom that I knew about. But the one thing I learned about was this idea called negative harmony.
Negative harmony? I have not. What is negative harmony? Negative harmony
is, he talked about it in terms of a cadence. So if you're at the end of your chord progression, say goes from an F major to a C major, right? It's a pretty standard cadence. There's an equivalent sort of mirror image chord for the F chord that provides the same degree of resolution going back to your root chord.
Okay, can you say that again?
So the F chord to the C chord is a pretty strong cadence. It's a pretty strong resolution, right? Mm. There's a substitute chord for the F chord that is considered to be the mirror image of the F chord that puts that harmonic resolution in sort of the same space. It feels the same. It doesn't sound the same, obviously, because it's a different chord. But there is a system, he explains, by which, you look at the leading tones and, you just change the direction on a couple of them and you end up with, say, I think the equivalent to the F was the G minor. So if you go G minor to C, it provides the same kind of cadence, the same kind of resolution. So it's an interesting way to substitute a chord and not change the feel of your progression. So it's a really interesting kind of thing to be able to put a substitute chord in there and see how it feels. And it should give you basically the same resolution as what you had before.
Does he have examples?
He does that. Well, he explains the whole system by which you map out all the notes and whatever chord you've got, you just sort of follow the diagram and it gives you your alternate chord. And
cool. What's his name?
David Bennett. We'll definitely put a link in the show notes to this video because there's a lot of stuff in there, but that's the one that I pulled out and I go, I'm going to be using this.
That's amazing. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. And again, there's he goes into different tuning systems and different scales and intonations and things and all sorts of stuff. But it's really quite interesting by the time you get.
It's a great format because you can just do little pieces of it, and go back over it. You don't have to do it all at once and then get lost and go, I don't understand any of this.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, like he's really good about explaining it and using the visual medium to sort of, map it out visually and stuff like that. And yeah, it is a little bit long. I did take a couple days to get through the whole thing and watch half of it the other day and watch the rest of it today.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. The music theory iceberg explained. Very, very cool. So, all right. So tonight we're getting back into the second batch of our listeners' songs for our 2022 edition of the Songwriting Challenge, which is to write a song based on the title "Why Do You Cry?" In our past episodes, the three hosts, Michael, Phil, and myself, we each shared our answers to the challenge, and in the next few weeks, sometime, we're going to repeat that process with our updated versions of those songs, because we were all pretty keen on. We got to a certain point by the time we shared our answers, but there was still some tweaking to be doing, some work to be done on those songs, and there's always room for improvement, right? So we're going to revisit our songwriting challenge answers, and of course, listeners, after we showcase your songs on the show, we'd love to hear if you feel keen to update your song. To revisit it, send it our way, and we'll certainly collect them, compile them, and do another episode where we talk about the updated versions, because
that would be great.
Because what we've been talking about on the show for years, is editing is a big thing, and the version of the song you hear on the radio and Spotify is the final version of who knows how many versions that a songwriter went through before they arrived at that final version. We talked to our guests about that, ad nauseum. And,
interestingly enough, there's a famous song by Boston called "More Than a Feeling," right. And apparently they went through numerous mixes of that to get what he was looking for. It was not as it seems so natural in what it is, but it was not. Yeah. It actually hides a lot of work and a lot of tweaking before they get to the final version. So don't feel bad if you have to do that as well.
No. I mean, if anything, it's I don't know. I kind of see it as necessary a lot of the time. It's not even necessary. It's natural. It's just, of course, it's not going to be perfect right off the bat. It's never going to be perfect anyway. But if something's still bugging you about it, or something you feel could be communicated better or land better, then definitely revisit it and let us know what you end up with.
Oh yeah, definitely. Please do.
As the final thing. So today's going to be our second batch, and we are going to do a third episode. So thank you to the stragglers who continue to send us their answers to the challenge, even as the deadline loomed and passed. We've all been there. Yeah, we've all been there, which is perfectly fine. And we're happy to receive them, and we're happy to showcase them on the show. So this will be batch number 2. There'll be batch number 3 in a couple of weeks. And then, of course, like we were just saying, we can do another episode for any updated versions we get from our listeners. We really appreciate you guys sending us your stuff.
Yeah. And maybe actually even after we're done this, people could send in their songs they're working on that aren't songs in progress. That would be awesome as well.
Even if it's not the challenge.
All right.
Okay, so shall we start with Lynn Moe?
Let us start with Lynn.
All right. Lynn Moe wrote us, and she said, "Hello, Neil, Phil, and Michael. First, thank you very much for putting in the work on the pod. I discovered it about a year ago and have caught up on all past episodes. And now never miss a new one." The songwriting process ideas from both yourselves and your guests have been very relevant and actionable for me on my journey to self-produce some of my songs. Please find attached my entry for this year's challenge. my process on this song, I basically took the prompt and thought about a story to tell. Next, I worked on chords, structure, and melodies that I felt fit the mood of the story. As I go through the process, I began writing down lyrical ideas on an 11 by 14 sketch pad. Wow, that's big. The first sheet got a little messy, but by the time I got to the second sheet, the idea for the song was pretty much formed. This isn't the only process I use for writing songs, but this one works well for me when I'm writing from a word or phrase idea.
Cool.
From there, I recorded a very rough draft of the guitar into GarageBand. I use a really cool website, tunebat.com/analyzer, to figure out the BPM, the beats per minute. Next, I searched for a drum beat in that BPM on YouTube that works with a guitar rhythm. Usually, I'm able to find a drum part that fits whatever song I am working on. I record the drum beat to my computer, put it into GarageBand, and then play along to the drum part for a while to tweak the guitar parts. Then re-record the guitar to the beat. Lastly, I add lyrics, tweaking along the way. I'm not sure if the song is done yet. Thank you, Lynn. or that it will be one that I self-produce. I'm kind of thinking the production process I go through might be an interesting topic for you to touch on in the podcast. Under separate cover, I'd like to send you a couple of my finished songs and describe my process if you are interested. Yes, Lynn, we are very much interested. Thank you very much, and hope you feel my version of Why Do You Cry is worthy of mention on your pod. Best, Lynn Moe. Thank you, Lynn, for the detailed process. That's amazing.
That was so good. I love those kind of specific steps, because especially if you're just starting off, people say, "Oh, well, I worked on the song," and they're going, "Oh, what does that mean?" Does that mean you play it once and it comes out? But the fact that she sort of said, "Okay, I have 11/17 sheet and I'm running all these ideas."
Yeah.
The first sheet is a mess, but the second sheet has a bit more focus. And I love that detail, because it helps people understand what the process is. And that's what this show is all about. It's not really about the inspiration. We don't really care why you write a song. That's, some people care about that, but we're about how do you actually write it? What is your process? How do you get to A and B, know?
And it's certainly, like your starting point is your starting point. But yeah, like to go to start off messy. Like, that's a great thing, right? And people, I do this too. I kind of forget about the messy part, because you tend to go through it very quickly. You brainstorm, you kind of generate some things, and I haven't really started working on the song until that second sheet. You know what I mean? It's just kind of blah blah until then, right? It's just kind of a mess of stuff, and then I start working on the song. So you kind of forget about that early process, but it is part of the process. As you're churning ideas, as you're just spitting out stuff, as you're getting the ball rolling, it's still part of the big process.
That's true. She made an interesting point about GarageBand, and I have a question for our listeners out there. A friend of mine is looking for something like GarageBand. It's easy to use, but on a PC. GarageBand is only for Apple, Macintoshes, and iOS. So if you know of a PC equivalent, please let us know at feedback@songtalk.ca.
Yeah.
But one of the she also used YouTube to find drum beats, which I thought was really neat.
Yeah, which was great.
I never thought about that. But GarageBand comes with a whole bunch of loops and drums built in. So I'd be interested to know why she doesn't go that route. That's always how I use GarageBand, but it's maybe it's not as flexible in some ways. That's really cool, though, using YouTube to find drum beats.
Maybe it's a little bit limited somehow. So, but yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, for free DAW on Windows, I use Cakewalk by BandLab, which used to be Cakewalk Sonar and cost like $500, but now it's perfectly free. It's maybe not as simple as GarageBand, but to me, it's as simple as you make it. Like, you can go deep on it, but you can very quickly, fire up a couple of tracks, record to them, and you're done, right? It's not, you don't have to get into time stretching and doing all sorts of weird things if you don't want to. So certainly, but I've seen a couple of videos on that go over like the free DAWs that are ideal, and some of them, like there's one traction waveform or something like that that's supposed to be very, very simple, easy to use. Maybe not as user friendly as GarageBand, but They're the one thing about Windows is that there are many options.
That is true. Many options indeed.
Because in Mac you've got basically GarageBand and then Logic. I think beyond that there's not a lot.
Well, there's Cubase.
The Cubase is Windows.
Digital. Digital Performer. Reaper.
Reaper's both. Okay, yeah, good.
Yeah, Live. Ableton Live.
Ableton can run. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah. Okay, so there's lots of options on the Mac too, but
there is too, man.
Yeah.
Let's not get down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's good. Windows, Mac.
It's okay.
Okay. All right. Let's take a listen to Lynn's song and and we'll talk about it.
Why do
Very nice.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's great.
I really liked the pre-chorus in his verse. He had, I think it's a B rhyme scheme. So you have a word, and then you have a line. You have a line A, and then you have line B, and then there's a line on the next line. There's a rhyme on the next line, and then there's a rhyme on the B line on the fourth line. That kind of couplet, which I really liked. But in the pre-chorus, he has the tight rhymes on "worth the bother," to be with another when we run into each other. And I kind of like that. That was sort of really kind of clearly differentiating. Media Music did too, but I really like that.
Yeah, because the melody there is worth the bother. Like the way he kind of lifts up the melody at the end is really kind of cool. And the bother, another, running to each other. It's really tasty and because of the rhyme scheme, obviously different. I really love right after the pre-chorus into the chorus, the ooh. I want the ooh really hits. He's got a chord change there that's really sweet, and it's kind of a perfect little thing there. I wonder why do you cry? Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah, you could make it a little more melodic as well, but I like it the way it is too.
Interesting. There's a kind of chordal space between the chorus and the verse, and at this point it's a very rough demo, and of course that's what it is. So that could be a spot to have like a guitar hook, a guitar lead, sort of. That could be neat. Yeah. And he has that again at the end. And I actually kind of really like that guitar chordal thing he does. And he has that again at the end.
Sort of bum 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 kind of thing. Like it reminds me of that what's that CCR song?
All of them?
Yeah, all of them. Anyway.
I like CCR. No more letters. But actually, at the end, he has that sort of that same chordal thing. At the end, you could actually have your guitar line being restated there, but also then I would also do "Why Do You Cry" on those other chords. There's no reason why you couldn't have some kind of vocal thing on the it doesn't have to be.
That's a neat idea.
Because it would be a little bit differently melodically, but I think it would work out well, and it gives the song a nice kind of energy and a kind of nice sort of natural build.
Yeah, and it would give us yet another variation of arrangement.
Yeah,
which could be kind of cool, like a melody chord arrangement. It's kind of neat. The only feedback I give to Lynn is I feel like the second verse didn't go to a different enough place. Like I kind of feel like in some senses the song is kind of long. What's the runtime on it? It seems to feel like it's 4 minutes.
It is 4:27. Hey, 4:27. Very good.
Yeah, because it is a little bit long, and I think maybe if verse 1 was a little bit shorter and verse 2 is a little bit shorter, you can kind of. I feel like there could be some compaction of ideas.
That's a very interesting point, because you could actually have the first 4 lines. So you go, back in the day, friends were happy for us. That's a good opening line because it's very clear what it is.
Yeah.
And wished they were in our shoes. Another great line. We had found our place in the sun, a warmth we thought we'd never lose. Then you go, and then you decided it wasn't worth the bother.
Yeah.
Because then you have all those other things. Things are okay, but there's this all this sort of detail that doesn't add that much. But you get into the change, and then you could have your second verse, which is a little bit longer and a bit more fidgety, and then
Well, like again, you get back into that. I've talked about this a couple of times on the podcast. Pat Pattison has this box model of where's the progression of your song. So for this song, it could be the first box is we found a happy place for us. The second box is the you left me and I wonder why do you cry, right? And then the third box, which could be the second verse, is what led to. Like now you can fill in the gap, right? So what led to the happy place in between the happy place and you leaving, what happened?
Okay.
right? And that could be the third boss. That's how I would do the second verse. Is like, oh, so we're happy, and then you decided you weren't worth the bother. You moved on. Oh, what happened? Now I want now I want to know the backstory.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can get into something more specific about the emotional content of what actually transpired in there, which I think would give the whole contour, the lyrical contour, a little more shape.
It's interesting. Your first verse doesn't have to be that long necessarily. Mm-hmm. If you're strong ideas, and in this case, those first 4 lines are perfectly. They are really good, really good. It does paint a very specific page, and then your pre-chorus goes in. Then you decide it wasn't worth the bother. Mm-hmm. Which is a great line in and of itself. I mean, and if you did that, you could. I mean, yes, the verses are long. They're only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're 8 lines. Yeah. And that could tighten it up. I mean, he also has those 4 chordal things, those just songs. So it's hard because it's not produced to see what that would that would be. It would
be a little more interesting, but I think on the reason. Here's the thing. It's not long because it's 4.5 minutes. It's long because there's not a lot of movement in the story.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Right? You know what I mean? Like a song only feels long, not because of minutes and seconds, but because of the changes and because of the dynamics and because there's something interesting going on. Right?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So if your verses just have, are a little bit too long, and then the second verse doesn't move without that, even if it's a 3-minute song, it will still feel long if you don't have that.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it has nothing to do with minutes and seconds.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't play around with the pre-chorus. I think the pre-chorus, and actually even the chorus itself, is strong.
Yeah, the pre-chorus and chorus are great. I think the only issue I have here is with the verses. Other than that, it's really cool.
Yeah, and there's lots of times people have done that, and they kept their pre-chorus and chorus and just wrote a new verse. Yeah, because they get to it and they go, this verse isn't strong enough, and that's okay.
That's perfectly fine. Try a version where the verses are half as long and see how it feels and see how does it communicate your story as well as if they were twice as long. I'm suspecting it will.
Yeah, and it's tough though when you're just doing stuff on your own because it's so easy to get inside your head. Mm-hmm. You're not necessarily. That's what's nice about being able to go into a songwriters meetup, for instance, and play and get feedback from someone saying, is this too long or is this too short? Or, because otherwise you're kind of making it's very hard to edit your own stuff. Yeah. Especially when you're starting out, I think it can be a challenge. For sure. Actually, when you're established, it can be tough.
Yeah, no, it is very true. And that's the sort of thing that, any kind of collaboration, meetup, getting a producer in the room, getting another songwriter in the room, getting someone with a critical ear to really take a close listen and or sending it to us to review on the podcast.
Yeah.
For instance.
It all helps.
It all helps for sure. I like we were saying about our own answers to the songwriting challenge. I thought I was done. Then I started getting feedback from other people. And then that's what made me rethink some of the lyrics and everything. And that's my updated version. Like there's a significant difference.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right. So next, let's go on to Gilbert Neal. I'm looking forward to the 15 different chord key changes.
I would have loved if Gilbert Neal, if anyone's heard about him through our podcast, we've had him on the show a couple of times now, and he's big on key changes. I would have loved to have seen him take up our challenge for last year where the chord progression doesn't change.
Yes.
That would be a challenge for him.
You're still good, Gilbert.
He still could do that. Anyway, okay, so Gilbert says, I'm writing about the people who offer thoughts and prayers when something like these shootings happen. He's talking about the Texas shooting that happened recently, a school shooting. I'm writing about the people who offer thoughts and prayers when something like these shootings happen. It's from the point of view of people who do this and are callous to the fact that there are humans involved, but almost think that's sort of a self-preservation mechanism, and it's horrible and it's insidious and it's pernicious. And I think it fits your title very well. So thank you. Thank you, Gilbert. We're geared up here for a protest song, I'm sure. And yeah, so that's what he's got to say about his song. It's all about the idea for him at this point.
All right, let's take a listen.
Cool.
Here's a big red badge of courage where a hair clip used to be. Twitching eye and a final sigh, and crayon cats in trees. A multicolored wristband, there's no hand to stop it slide. A decked out citizen soldier wanders around inside. Why do you cry? I'm thinking and I'm praying. What else should I be saying? Why do you cry? I try so hard. I try so hard. Here's a list of little sundries and a 60-year-old grocer. Somebody's phone explodes in shards as the assailant moves in closer. But the screams can't fight this message he's making with his gun. There's 2 points being made here, but the world remembers one. Oh, why do you cry? I'm thinking and I'm praying. What else should I be saying? Oh, why do you cry? I try so hard. I try so hard. Loneliness is humming, and it sizzles as it nears. He'll hardly even notice as it whispers in his ear. You were born to be a legend. Sing the words from our big plan. The memories in their minds will die, as if the memories of them can. Why do you cry? I'm thinking and I'm praying. What else should I be saying? Oh, why do you cry? I try so hard. I try so hard.
Wow.
Very cool.
Amazing. It's,
Neat
it's
stuff.
kind of an epic song.
Yeah, lots of bits of stuff.
And he's changing keys right into the pre-chorus the first time.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, dude. He's already modulating like 30 seconds into this thing.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Yeah, it's great. I love his melody, the way he treated "Why Do You Cry," and I'm thinking and I'm praying. What else should I be saying? Like, it's such a rich melody and a rich chord progression and everything. It's really, really it digs into your brain, and it's really, really compelling.
Yeah, and it's not a super obvious melody either, which is kind of nice.
No, I mean, Gilbert's always good for unique melodies and chord progressions and everything. So he's always been good for that, I think.
Yeah, he does great stuff.
But just the way he treated that melody, I think, yeah, very, very unique and different and very, very cool.
The only thing I was a bit confused of.
Confused about?
Confused about? Confused of.
It sounds like it.
I feel word makeup used now. I try so hard. I'm not sure. Is that him saying that he can't cry or he doesn't cry? Or I was a little confused by that.
Yeah, I admit that's the one part that kind of miffed me as well. Is like, what are you trying and what's so hard about it? And I wasn't quite sure. Even melodically, it seemed like a tag on the end of the chorus that maybe didn't need to be. I don't know. I don't want to say it didn't need to be there, but
musically it's fine. It's just it says I try so hard, but I wasn't sure what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
If we said we try so hard or something, but yeah, I mean it's such a rich song with so many ideas.
Yeah. But still, it's not schizophrenic. It's unified.
No, they're very unified. Yes,
it's cohesive. But but you're right. There was a lot going on.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
Well, it's got a bit of the progressive feel, which is kind of nice. It's sometimes I know when we started off the meetup way back when, there was a lot of people just doing. One person with a guitar doing a folk song, and nothing wrong with that.
No.
But it's nice to have different styles and something that's a bit more progressive and a bit more complicated. Mm-hmm. It's nice to have, not everything has to be like a 3-minute Beatles pop song.
No, certainly not. And certainly, the approach he's taken lyrically too is a little bit more on the poetic side, because we have the preamble, we can read into it, but on the face of it, you may not know precisely what it's about, although he does make some pretty clear images. And he's using a lot of, I really like his opening chorus with the colors, the big red badge, a crayon, a lot of visual sort of sensory language in his verse before he gets to the emotional content of the chorus, right? So it's really well constructed that way and well conceived in those terms. But if you took this idea and did a musically simpler folk song, I think the inclination there would be to write the lyric in a much more direct way.
Well, that's a good point.
And just say it plainly, and that gives you your kind of, because then the lyric kind of comes across with a lot more meat, and then it doesn't matter that it's not musically complex because the story is what you're really hinging on. Here he's hinging a lot on the musical interest of it, so the lyric can kind of fall under the radar a little bit as to what it's really about, and that's okay. Because if it was lyrically intense as well as musically intense, I think
probably be too much.
It might be too much. It might be like, should I be paying attention to the story? Should I be paying attention to the key changes? Where's your brain going to be all over the place?
That is a really good point, because I think sometimes the problem that I have with some progressive rock is that it's musically very complicated and then lyrically very complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And I just find that sometimes it's too much, and you're just going like, it's a bit overwhelming.
Yeah. There's something I've been more aware of, especially since I did my electro pop EP, because it's a balance, the complexity and the simplicity of the various elements of your composition, of your songwriting. to say my electropop EP, for instance, I had odd time signatures, so that's complex. I had arguably complex lyrics because they were nonsense, but still there was a degree of complexity to them, right? So my chord changes and my structure was dead simple: verse, chorus, bridge, out. Right. And just major, minor chords, no major key changes, no, funny stuff like that and anything like that. Right. So and that was a deliberate thing to say, I've got all this complexity. I don't want to overwhelm it with musical complexity as well. So I decided to keep it simple. And I think, there's a balance going on there. And I think that's something that I've been more keen of, and you are right that a lot of that older progressive music stuff, the stories are big and vast and complex and amazing, and then the music is just
lots of wizards and trolls and things.
Yeah, really, really, or mythical, or
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, really, really intense all the way through. So yeah. But this is obviously he's got progressive elements, but it's not, but structurally it's pretty simple. Right?
Yeah, it's true.
It's verse, chorus, solo, out, like that's pretty much it, right? So, yeah,
that's true.
Great stuff.
We should do a song on, not a song. We should do a show on classifying kinds of music, like what makes a progressive rock song, what makes a punk song, what makes a pop song. It'd be an interesting thing to see where people's lines lie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there could be some differing opinions there, but
I think so. Now, how about Mark?
Yes, sir. So Mark Ippolito, he's one of our meetup guys, where we intersected after the pandemic started with a meetup group from Seattle, Washington. So he's one of the Seattle crew, and he's been to our meetup, and he's a really cool guy. And he submitted to our songwriting challenge last year. For the Chords That Don't Change. Yeah, and once again, he's come to us with a protest song, just like last year. Another politically charged protest song.
Nice.
Okay, says, hi, Song Talk Radio team. Please see my submission attached for the 2022 Songwriting Challenge. Given all the tragedies in our world today, sadly, there's no lack of subject matter to choose from using this year's lyric prompt. Harder for me was to land on a musical idea that I could commit to. I worked through a variety of different melodies, but none seemed to gel or really come to the surface until about 2 weeks ago, when the opening melody and refrain came to me during a morning run. When I got home, I quickly hummed the melody for the verse and chorus into my iPhone and captured the basic flow of the song. After considering some additional verses, a bridge, and a musical break, I opted to stick with the simple melody line I started with and let the story and lyrics lead the listener through the song. The recording came together over this weekend and was done quickly using GarageBand. Thanks to my daughter, Helen, for her contribution to the spoken word portion of the song. Attached is an MP3 with the lyric sheet, also available on SoundCloud. And we'll certainly link to that in our show notes. Please give it a listen, and I look forward to your feedback. Peace, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Again, another pretty detailed process, how he went into something, and came up with something, rejected it, and went back to something that he had before. We want to keep it simple, right? Again, if it's getting away from you and getting too complicated, then maybe it's time to step back and be like, okay, what's the big picture here, and what do I need to focus on? And that's exactly what he seems to have done.
And what's great is you're able to keep what you had before and maybe use it in a different song.
Yeah.
So it's
so like ideas are recyclable. You can always pop them up somewhere else.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, should we take a listen?
Let's take a listen.
Why do I cry, baby? Why do I cry tonight? Why do I cry, baby? Why do I cry tonight? Crying for the children, for the songs they'll never sing, for the words they'll leave unspoken, for the gifts they'll never bring. Why do I cry, baby? Why do I cry tonight? We're turning schoolyards into graveyards, for blood and groceries spilled out on the floor, for turning wives into widows. I can't take it anymore. Why do I cry? Why do I cry? Why do I cry, baby? Why do I cry tonight? For the brothers and the sisters, for the mothers and the sons, for the fathers and the daughters. So many lives stolen by just one. Why do I cry? Why do I cry? Why?
McKenna Lee Elrod, Layla Salazar, Miranda Mathis, Nevaeh Bravo, Jose Manuel Flores Jr., Javier Lopez,
Kat Massey,
Tess Marie Mata,
Pearl Young,
Rogelio Torres,
Roberta Drury,
Eliana M. Amaya Garcia,
Ruth Whitfield,
Eliana A. Torres,
Geraldine Talley,
Annabelle Guadalupe Rodriguez,
Celestine Che,
Jackie Casares,
Aaron Salter,
Lucía Garcia,
Marcus Morrison,
Jace Carmelo Luevanos,
Andre McNeil,
Maite Juliana Rodriguez,
Hayward Patterson,
Julia Nicole Silguero, Irma Garcia, Eva Mireles, Amory Jo Garza, Alexandria Lexi Anaya Rubio, Alethea Ramirez.
Ooh, wow.
Quite a song.
Yeah, really, really powerful.
Yeah, it's I don't know, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of heavy. Like it's interesting that it's the same content as Gilbert's song about the shootings in the recent shootings in the U.S. His Mark references both the Uvalde shooting in Texas and the Tops Market Buffalo heat motivated killing. Yeah, but just like we were saying, like but same content, but completely different approach. Like Mark's is much more of a simple stripped down folk song approach, verse refrain. no key changes, no wacky melodies, no musical distractions to distract us from the story of the song, which is exactly what he was saying in his preamble. Is he came up with a simple melody and a simple lyric, and really wanted that to punch through. You can only imagine if he took a musical approach the same way that Gilbert took an approach, it would have distracted you from the lyric.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah.
But he really wanted you to focus on the lyric, and that's what you get out of his presentation and out of his composition, because musically it's very stripped down and very, very simple. He does highlight the "why do you" cries nicely and subtly. And that is enough of a refrain to sort of bring us back to base before we go off onto something else, and come back. So yeah, so really, really, really compelling stuff.
Yeah, and very tight song. And he made a nice use of a C suspended chord. He gives the chords along with his song, which is really nice. And it's again not super complicated, but using a C suspended chord is really great. It just kind of gives it a bit sort of openness at the end of a line, and kind of sets it up to going back to the one.
Yeah, it makes for a great cadence. It makes for a good pulling into the next part, which is really, really great.
Yeah, because I think it's in G, and the C sus would be it's a four suspended. Yeah,
four suspended, which is great.
So
as opposed to just the C major, but it's the same thing as going from the C major, but it's a little more tense than that, right? It's a little bit more tension.
Yeah, because it's a little bit, it's a bit more open. It's, C, F, and G. It's produced by taking the one root and the 4 and 5, with the third, but no third and a fourth added. So a suspended song doesn't, a suspended chord doesn't have a third to it.
Correct.
But it has a fourth added to it. So it kind of gives it a bit more open feel to it, which is kind of nice, and it works really well before going to your one chord. So his one chord is G, and the C suspended is the 4.
4 chord, and yeah, it is the cadence going back to the root. So
yeah.
Really
So definitely, a very powerful song,
Yeah, for sure.
And I love the fact that he, for accompaniment, he really just used a single note on an organ.
Yeah.
He didn't have a whole bunch of drums or other, and that kind of gave it a bit more of a church feel, but also didn't get on top of the message, which is really what he was trying to go for.
Yeah. Yeah, this is where, both Mark's song and Gilbert's song, I think, it may be arguably Mark's to a greater extent, intention is really lining up with result.
Yes.
Right. Because, and again, we have the benefit of analysis, and we have the benefit of getting the preamble from them, what the process they went through. But I think, if I had to guess Mark's, process, probably would have got the same thing. It was like he wanted to strip it down and keep it simple because the message is the paramount thing here.
And the message is, just coming into the song completely cold, because not everyone who's going to hear your song is going to know the preamble. Yeah. Coming in cold, it's very clear what the song is about and what the song is trying to say. Yeah. And with Gilbert's, it's not quite as clear, but that's not necessarily as bad, I think. It's nice. No, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And even in Mark's song, he doesn't, except for the reading of the victims' names at the end, it could apply to any kind of tragedy or any kind of crime like that, where this sort of stuff happens. So it's more universal than those two specific events. Wonderful tight song. Mm-hmm. That is really great. We have some great songs coming up for the next guest show as well. Yes, we do, for the next episode of Listener Songs. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, so that is about all the time we have for Song Talk Radio tonight. Special thanks to our fantastic listeners. Once again, thank you for sending us your challenge responses. And like we're saying, we still have one more episode of listener songs to come, so stay tuned. We want to hear from you. Please send us your comments, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Song Talk Radio, or send us an email, feedback@songtalk.ca. Also, be sure to check out our YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes. Subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on your favorite podcast provider. And don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter at songtalk.ca. You can find links to all our products, books, and web services and other goodies we mentioned on the show on our resources page or on the individual show pages, of course. And wherever you are in the world, please join us online via Zoom at our next monthly Song Talk meetup. It's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend the meetup. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. You can follow me at neilmodi.com. You can follow Phil
at philemery.ca.
And of course, thanks for listening, everybody. Be sure to stop by the website at songtalk.ca, browse past shows, find out how you can be a guest. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and keep on writing.
Good night.
So long.